My name is Dr. Gregory Rabold, and I'm the founder and medical director of the Himalayan Medical Foundation, a nonprofit medical organization which has been operating in the Kathmandu Valley for the past 23 years. I'd like to share with you and give you an update on the current situation in Nepal. As you probably read on the news or on the internet, Nepal has experienced a catastrophic earthquake. And I'd like to tell you a bit of the story of my organization and what we're trying to do to help with this crisis. On April 25th at 11:56 Nepali Standard Time, a 7.8 on the Richter scale earthquake began at 80 kilometers northwest of Kathmandu. It was followed shortly by another earthquake, which was 6.6. Numerous aftershocks have been occurring for the last 10 days, and some of these aftershocks are actually strong enough to be considered earthquakes in themselves. So you can imagine how difficult this situation has been for the average Nepali. Numerous remote mountain villages have been completely demolished. Helicopter flybys have indicated there doesn't appear to be any evidence of life, and a village that might have consisted of 200 or 300 people is gone. Landslides are common in Nepal, but when you combine it with an earthquake, then the landslide is all that much more. And once the monsoon season starts, with the earth being unsettled from the earthquake, we can expect more of this, and this is going to be an ongoing problem. In Gorkha, which is a district right near the epicenter where the earthquake hit, over 90% of all buildings and structures in that capital city have been destroyed. They're still trying to collect the bodies of the victims, and so they at this time don't have an accurate account of how many people lost their lives. But the loss of 80 to 90% of the structures of that city gives you an idea of how bad this earthquake has been. In Kathmandu itself, over 15,000 people have been critically injured. And many of these people are dying because the hospitals are so overcrowded and the medical staffs are so overworked, they cannot possibly take in more patients. The Beer Hospital, which is the main city hospital in Kathmandu, is so overcrowded that people are laying on the sidewalks in stretchers and gurneys or on blankets, wrapping around the hospital almost a complete city block. These are people that are seriously injured, and the longer they stay there without being admitted, the less chance they have of surviving. And one expert felt that as many as 80 to 90% of these people would probably not make it. While the official death toll is staying just under 10,000 people at this time, an expert on earthquake phenomena, combined with looking at the geography of Nepal, feels that it's not unreasonable to think that the fatality rate, once all is said and done, may be as high as 50,000 people. Let's truly hope that he's wrong, and the number is much lower than that. Siring Lama is the country director for the Himalayan Medical Foundation, and a few days after the earthquake, it was not possible to reach him through phone, email, in any way that I would try. And of course, that was a nerve-wracking period for all of us. But we're in daily communication now, and he feels that there probably as many as 40 to 50% of the population of Kathmandu has fled the city at this time, with people opting to go back to their villages. They're just too frightened to stay in the city, and they're too frightened to go back into their homes because for fear of collapse. One recent article suggested that 25%, 1 in 4, of Nepali citizens at this time are either homeless or have been forced to take shelter elsewhere outside of their home because their homes are not stable. Over 600,000 homes and structures in the Kathmandu Valley have been destroyed, and that in itself is just a mind-boggling number. What is worrisome is that of the structures that are still standing, many of them are actually structurally unsound. And Siring Lama, my country director, reported that There are buildings all over the valley which are just spontaneously collapsing without any obvious cause, and that's because of the severe amount of structural damage that was done, even though the buildings did not collapse at the time of the earthquake itself. There have been numerous UNESCO World Heritage Sites that have been completely destroyed. The Kathmandu Valley initially was divided into three kingdoms: Bhaktapur, Patan, and Kathmandu. Obviously now they're unified, and these are just three cities within the Kathmandu Valley. But each city has a square called Durbar Square. Durbar stands for king. And in those squares were the UNESCO Heritage Site shrines, temples, monuments, many of them close to 1,000 years old. Many of them were carved in wood by Marwari craftsmen, and virtually all of those have been destroyed, which is a huge loss for our world in terms of culture and heritage and history. Most of the Tibetan Buddhist monasteries in Kathmandu also sustained significant damage. I know of 4 of the monasteries where we have clinics. The temples at those monasteries are structurally damaged and are going to have to be demolished and rebuilt, and this is obviously very, very sad. The 2 main stupas in the Kathmandu Valley, the Bodhanath Stupa and the Swayambhunath Stupa, also known as the Monkey Temple, also sustained significant damage. Many of the buildings and monuments around the stupas have collapsed. There's a crack in the Bodhanath Stupa, but fortunately, the stupas themselves are still erect, and that's one small bit of good news. The pre-monsoon growing season is occurring now. This is the time of the year when the farmers put out most of their seeds and crops, particularly in growing rice. And this has been disrupted tremendously by the earthquake and people moving around and trying to get to safe areas. And so the Nepali government is very much concerned that come fall there's going to be some massive food shortages because the growing season has been interrupted. The World Health Organization is also very concerned about, once the monsoon starts, the health impact this is going to have. We're already seeing dysentery in a much higher percentage than we normally would see. There are many forms of dysentery, but cholera is the most serious, and they're very concerned about cholera outbreaks. But not only are we going to see cholera, but we're also going to see meningitis, typhoid fever, hepatitis, and with people's immune systems being depressed by living outdoors, we're going to see increased cases of pneumonia and tuberculosis. So these are all things that the Himalayan Medical Foundation needs to be prepared to handle. Since the earthquake occurred, the Himalayan Medical Foundation, in partnership with another NGO called Adara, has been setting up emergency medical camps throughout the Kathmandu Valley. Each day they go to a different location, work about 12 hours, and then the next day move on to another place. This is going to continue for about 2 weeks. And then at that time, we're hoping we'll have a clear assessment of our clinics, how structurally sound are they, and are we able to reopen and start seeing patients at our clinics. In talking to Sri Lama this morning, he shared with me one bit of good news, is that it appears that 6 out of our 7 clinics are undamaged, which means we won't have to undergo repairs or relocate. The bad news part of that is the one clinic that did sustain damage is our busiest clinic, the Vinci Clinic. And at this clinic, which is open every day, we have a laboratory, x-ray, dental, and a Chinese medical clinic, in addition to our allopathic treatment. This is also where our medical doctor consultant comes and sees the more serious cases. So engineers are assessing this building to determine is the crack that's in the roof and on the ceiling of our clinic, is it repairable, particularly before the monsoon season, or is this building now structurally unsound? We're obviously hopeful that in the next few days this will become clear, and hopefully the news will be good, is that the building is sound and just needs repairs. In talking to Searing, we both concluded that our business is probably going to triple. We're going to be seeing 3 times the number of patients that we would ordinarily see, in a normal year. Along with that is going to be a dramatic increase in the amount of medications and medical supplies that we go through. And we also are going to need very much to hire extra medical staff. Searing and I both feel that we need to hire at least 2 more health assistants. A mental health worker may be necessary. Many Nepalis right now are very much traumatized. These are very strong, resilient people. And a good number of these folks, given a few months, once the earthquake activity subsides, they should do fine. But there are going to be people that are suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome, anxiety, depression, insomnia, and these people are going to need, obviously, to have counseling. Another thing which has become very obvious that we need to obtain is a SUV vehicle. It's hard to believe, but for the last 23 years, we've done all of our work basically with a small fleet of 3 motorcycles. And whenever we've needed to take medical supplies, medications, to even our most remote clinics, where the roads are often bumpy and difficult to reverse, we've strapped the medications on the back of the motorcycle and taken them up to our clinics. With the increase in the amount of medications and supplies that we're going to need to transport on a very regular basis, this no longer will be sufficient. The bad news is that the Nepali government charges a 200% tax on the purchase of any new vehicle. So if you were to buy a $40,000 vehicle, it suddenly shoots up in price to a level which would be greater than our combined budget. However, vehicles that are made in India, such as Suzuki, has a subsidiary in India, and if we bought a used Maruti Suzuki, we would pay about $10,000 for that. And that would make it easier for Searing to get around, particularly during the monsoon and the cold season, and it would make it also easier to get the medications that are much needed to our different clinics. So that is going to be added to our budget. So what we're looking at here this year is the need to collect in donations close to $40,000 in addition to what we normally would collect due to the severity of this crisis that we're facing. The earthquake that has struck Nepal is undoubtedly the largest challenge that the Himalayan Medical Foundation has faced since its inception. But as I stated, the Nepali people are very strong and resilient, and we're hopeful that that attitude will rub off on our organization, and that whatever we need to do to keep our clinics open and running and to expand our services, we will be able to do so. We very much need your help, though, at this time in order for that to be accomplished. So I would ask you to dig deep and to consider giving as much as you can. And you can go to our website, www.himalayanmedicalfoundation.org, and you can make a donation through PayPal. You certainly can mail us a check. All of that information is on our website, and will also be included in our newsletter, which will soon be going out. I will keep you updated every few months on how things are going in Nepal, so that you're able to have a clear sense of are improvements being made, are things getting better, are they getting worse, and what kind of problems are our clinics encountering. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.